Now recording. So this presentation will be available to everybody on today's webinar, and we'll make sure that it is available to you. It will also be available on our website. We're grateful that you're here today and want to welcome you to our Intecrowd's release management webinar presented by Katherine Tarnowski and Lisa Johnson. My name's Perry Giles, and I'm just running some ground rules here. We have time dedicated at the end of the presentation for question and answer. So as questions come up, please feel free to use the Q&A functionality. There's a little Q&A button down there at the bottom, and we will take time to address those at the end. So with that being said, I am now going to turn the time over to Katherine, who will do some introductions and take it from there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Perry. Hi, everybody. So as you can see here on the screen, I'm showing our agenda. We're going to run through some introductions, review who Intecrowd is, and then dive into our information regarding the release. So without further ado, as I mentioned, my name is Katherine Tarnowski. I am a consultant and team leader here at Intecrowd, and I'm based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. I have been in the Workday ecosystem for about 3.5 years now, 2 of which have been with Intecrowd. This will be my 4th release with Intecrowd as a team leader, but I've also gone through 2 additional releases on the client side. I do hold multiple certifications, and one of my areas of specialty include HCM, in which I am a product lead. And I will turn it over to Lisa to introduce herself.
Perfect. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Johnson, and I am a consultant and ACC lead on the AMS team here at Intecrowd. I am based out of San Antonio, Texas. I have been working in the Workday ecosystem for about 5.5 years now, with one of those years being here at Intecrowd. This is my 2nd Workday release with Intecrowd. However, I've gone through this about 8 times on the client side, so very familiar with this process. I hold multiple certifications as well, and have worked in various modules within Workday.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so for those of you who may not be familiar with Intecrowd, we are a Workday services partner. We have over 140 employees located in the US, India, Australia, Canada, Italy, Germany, Poland, and the UK. With the combination of all of our employees, we have over 650 Workday certifications in HCM, financials, and integrations. We have over 27 Workday product leads, with 4 of those product leads having multiple product qualifications. We've worked on over 700 projects for our 500 customers. We have over 110 AMS clients, and you can see here we've got some additional information regarding our Phase X deployments, things like that. And then the last thing is that we are a Workday Extend. We are one of 9 authorized Workday Extend partners in the ecosystem. Okay, so we're going to move on from that and jump into our release overview. So some just high-level information regarding the release for those of you who are maybe new to Workday or haven't gone through a release quite yet. It does occur every 6 months. It typically starts in February and August, with a release delivered to your production and sandbox environments in March and September. So as right now, we are currently in 2021 R1. We are currently in the preview window as it stands right now. That information was loaded into your preview tenants on February 6th, with that information being available in production and sandbox as of March 13th. If you are not familiar with how Workday handles the release, they have 2 different release types. You have your automatically available items, which, as the name describes, are automatically available in your preview tenant as of right now, and will become automatically available in your production and sandbox environments on March 13th. So these are items that typically have a lower impact, maybe new report fields, things like that. And then you have your setup required items. These are ones that you have to go into your preview tenant and set up manually. So these are items that you would have to go out, set it up, and then test it before being able to move it to production to ensure that it meets your business needs, it actually applies. And then as of March 13th, you will have to go in and manually also configure that in your production and sandbox environments. So how do you see what's coming in a release? There is a report that you can run out of your tenant. It's called the What's New in Workday report. So if you go into your tenant, just right there at the search bar, type in What's New in Workday, and you're going to pull up this report, and you can filter on specific releases. So you can look at previous releases if you wanted to see maybe what was historically there. And then Workday does sometimes also include future releases as well. So there could be information about 2021 R2 or going into 2022. Obviously, all of those items apply to Safe Harbor. So in this case, you'd want to filter on 2021 R1. So that way then you can see all of the items that are coming with this release, both automatically availables as well as setup required. There is another report that you can get. If you navigate into community on that first page, you're going to see up at the top, there's a tab for release, and that is Workday's Release Center. If you go into there, there's a spreadsheet that Workday provides. It's called the Announcing and Feature Considerations spreadsheet. This is a spreadsheet that will be more condensed than what you would see in the What's New in Workday report, as these are just the items that Workday have determined are being featured and highlighted with this release. So again, it's still going to have both automatically available and setup required, but it is going to be a little bit more condensed than what you would see, and that all encompassing What's New in Workday runs directly out of your tenant. Okay, so just to highlight some of the featured releases that are coming in 2021 R1, these are all setup required items. So if you solely focus on the automatically availables, these are items that you could potentially be missing out on. We've got them broken down by the different modules here, but these are all items that you would have to go in and you would have to configure in your preview tenant. And if you determine that they met your business needs, then move as of March 13th over to your production and sandbox environments. And these you would see all on either of those reports that I mentioned on the previous slide. So what you can miss out on, displaying gender pronouns. This is an HCM related item. So we wanted to give you a visual of what information Workday is providing and how that translates into what does it actually look like in your tenant. So on this left-hand side, you can see that in order to display gender pronouns, you would have to configure this. It's a setup required item. And the overview of this item is that it allows your organization to configure gender pronouns to publicly display with the worker's name and job title. As you can see on the right-hand side, we've got lovely Miss Logan McNeil, and you can see her picture, her name, and then directly underneath it are the gender pronouns that we have set up in this tenant. These gender pronouns can be specific to your company to help meet your diversity initiatives. What would happen if you didn't do anything with it? So if you were to not set this item up in your tenant as of March 13th, you would have the ability to, luckily with setup required items, you have the luxury of time. You can set it up after the March 13th date, but if you didn't do anything with this item, your worker pronouns would not be visible across the organization. And then the last thing that we have here is the build configuration and the What's New post. So in community, Workday provides What's New post for most of their release items, specifically related to the setup required. These are items that Workday then in this link would take you to community, and you can see a demo. Many times Workday has demos that are attached to each of the items. These demos are typically 5 to 10, maybe 15 minutes long, just so you can visualize the change that's coming. And then there's also information about, again, what the item is, what would happen if you didn't do anything with it, and then additional configuration considerations. Okay. And with that being said, that wraps up our information about the release overview. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Lisa Johnson to talk about our strategic release management.
Excellent. Thanks, Katherine. So what I am planning to cover are some of our best practices around the Workday release. So from a strategy perspective, you should always consider your roadmap. Workday provides many new release items. So there are going to be some great features and functions that you might not be able to implement right now, but you'll want to have them in the future. So ensure you're reviewing all of those items, and those that you're not going to be implementing right now, add them to a roadmap so that you can make sure you're getting the most benefits out of Workday and their new feature items. So as you're doing this, make sure you also think about the evolution of your business. What key new features are coming out that are going to help your business continue to grow? Also, make sure to go ahead and prioritize those items. That way, when you do start getting ready to implement them, you're ready to go. You already have your priority list, know what you want to do, and you're good to get started. For adoption, what we generally see clients focus on here is from a change management perspective. So updating any user manuals, quick reference guides, and any type of training materials based on the new features and functions that have been released. So if you have any updates that are going to impact your business processes, make sure that you update your training materials for both your end users and your super users. It's also good to, maybe send out some sort of a communication to your key audiences, just kind of maybe bullet pointing some of the new functions and items so they have it just quickly at their fingertips. Regression testing is also very important, just to ensure that these new release items do not have any downstream impacts to your current configuration. So we definitely recommend that you go in and review the new features and create a list of your priority test cases. Make sure to spot check your key business processes and employees, and run your integrations from Sandbox and Sandbox Preview just to ensure everything is running smoothly. Community is also a great place of reference. So make sure that you utilize Community and the tools that Workday supplies in their release center. Katherine had previously mentioned that when you go into Community, there's a release tab on the top right-hand side, full of great information. Definitely recommend that you check that out. And we have also provided just a quick link there for you in the slides so that you can get easily to the Release Prep Center. Okay. There are also some key reports that you will want to be running during this release window. So there's the All Custom Reports with Do Not Use items. This is used to assist with updating invalid report values. The Business Process Exception Audit is used to assist in resolving any outstanding business process errors. The Business Process Definitions with Integration Steps using Deprecated Fields Audit is used to identify any business process issues for steps that include an integration. The Security Exception Audit identifies any critical security exceptions. The Integration Exception Audit identifies any integration errors. The Condition Rule Exception Audit identifies invalid condition rule values. And the Calculated Field Exception Audit will identify any critical calculated field errors. Looking at this, you may be thinking, wow, that's a lot of reports that I need to be paying attention to. They definitely all provide great beneficial information, but if we had to recommend one that, please go out and run this report just to ensure everything is going smoothly, that would be the All Custom Reports with Do Not Use items, just because you want to make sure any of those custom reports that you've created do not have the Do Not Use items that are going to be deprecated out and then may cause issues to your reports before you get a chance to update them. Awesome. Okay, so next, we'd like to talk about some release considerations. So in preparation for the release, make sure you review the individual release items based on your specific modules, highlight the considerations, what would happen if you did nothing, and the build configuration. Develop testing scenarios for your specific upgrade items. Take tenant-specific screenshots for any job aids that you may need to update. So while you're in there testing and you see things are different, we recommend just go ahead and take the screenshots then, just to save you some time in the future. You've already got them handy to go update those job aids when you have a chance to do that. Also, spot check all of your key business processes and review your security assignments. For integration regression testing, review your current configuration in the tenant to check for any deprecations, and review the results and compile options and potential solutions, and then make those updates as needed. So one question that we get asked quite frequently is if we should test our integrations. The answer to that is absolutely yes. It is very important to test all of your integrations. You want to ensure none of the new features are impacting any of your current integrations so that everything runs smoothly. So absolutely test those integrations in both Sandbox and your Sandbox preview tenants. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Perry so that we can answer some of your questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Katherine and Lisa. We're going to do the Q&A portion now. So if you do have a question, use that Q&A button down there at the bottom. We do have a couple here. So I'm going ahead and read that. So how have you seen Workday customers prepare users and internal support resources for releases?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Perry. This is Katherine, everybody. So letting your users know what's coming ahead of in regards to 2021 R1 ahead of March 13th is important to just letting them know the functionality changes and any potential user interface changes. We have seen with this release that there are quite a few automatically available updates to user interface and some new functionality where they'll see pop-ups and things like that. So even if you don't take any of the setup required items, those automatically available items will be something that could potentially impact them. So we have clients who put together quick cheat sheets or like a highlights reel and send it out company-wide prior to March 13th, essentially just letting everybody know so that when they first log into the tenant after that date, they're not caught unaware with those changes that are coming.
Perfect. The paraphrasing a few questions here. Does Intecrowd provide a type of webinar that goes through the new release items specifically for everybody?
This is Lisa. Thanks for that question. No, currently Intecrowd does not offer a webinar to cover all of the new release items. We like to keep things customized to our clients, so we hold individual meetings to walk through only the items that are relevant to each client and to have that personal one-on-one conversation and address any questions or concerns that you have.
Perfect. That should answer a couple questions we had there. Next one we have is, why is regression testing important?
Yeah, this is Katherine. So regression testing is important to help identify any of the depreciations or potential configuration issues that are going to be impacted in your tenant by some of those automatically available items. A lot of times we see maybe old report fields that are being deprecated and swapped out with new ones and things like that. And so going in and regression testing, integrations and business processes and things like that is great to help you correct the issue prior to March 13th. So that way, then once March 13th hit, you're not going to be caught unaware and have to scramble to try and fix everything in a short amount of time. You would have had taken the time prior to that. So you have those fixes ready to go. And as of March 13th, you can get right in and just implement those changes.
Perfect. That's a good follow-up to this question. I haven't started looking at any of the release items yet. Am I too late? What would you recommend I start with?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. So no, you are not even close to being too late. There's a little over 2 weeks left in the preview window. So you can still go out. You can review all of the automatically available items in the What's New report that was mentioned earlier, and then also run those recommended reports that I had covered and mentioned. So those will help you to identify any of those errors or the do not use fields that are currently being utilized. And then also just, pay attention if you don't have the time for all the setup required currently, at least, look through all the automatically available. So you're aware of any tenant changes that may be coming and no one is caught off guard come March 13th when you sign in and, see if things look a little different or if anything is, different based on the automatically available items. So definitely you have plenty of time to go out and make sure that everything is going to be running smoothly for you.
Perfect. All right. We're going to take one more question here. What's the best way to maintain and keep track of release items that require setup and that we would like to configure at some point?
Yeah, great question. Thanks. So we completely understand that, this can be a short preview window. You may not have time to go through and test all of those setup requireds. So making sure that you go through and you address and add them to your roadmap is crucial to help not only with your continuous business development, but also your evolution of your tenant and the configuration that you have. So using a tool like Excel or Smartsheets, whatever your organization has available to you, honestly, going in and in those spreadsheets that we mentioned, the what's new in Workday or that announcing, just copy and paste the row of the item that you're interested in and plug that into your spreadsheet. You could potentially break it down with tabs at the bottom for each of the releases. So that way, then you know which release it was specific to. And then in terms of, Intecrowd, absolutely, we're always happy to help with a roadmap. So if you have an ACC that you partner with, we can always add that to your status sheets and just continuously check in to see if maybe you have the bandwidth to start looking at those items and potentially implementing them. But absolutely, keeping those items on roadmap is going to be crucial to continuous development.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Any questions that we did not get to, we'll do a personal follow-up with you. The questions and answers will also be provided along with the recording and this PowerPoint presentation shortly after we end. Could you go on to the next slide there? If you have any questions, you'll have Katherine and Lisa's contact information, and you can reach out to them for any follow-up questions that you might have or want to have further discussions. But with that, we're grateful that you joined us today, and we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.